The notification popped up on my phone at 3:47 p.m. while I was reviewing quarterly reports for Azure Coast Holdings. Instagram notification. Mom posted a new photo. I recognized it immediately. The Azure Coast Resort booking confirmation screen. I should know. I'd owned the property for 3 years. Family vacation planning. She'd captioned it with 12 heart emojis. What she didn't include was the conversation I'd overheard through her speakerphone 30 minutes earlier. She's too poor for family vacation, Mom had explained to Aunt Linda and Aunt Carol while scrolling through resort packages. We can't afford extra rooms for failures like Sarah. She'll have to find her own accommodations if she wants to come. Smart thinking, Rebecca, Aunt Linda had agreed. Why waste money on someone who can't contribute anyway? Exactly. This trip is for successful family members only, Mom had declared. Sarah can stay home with her minimum wage lifestyle. I'd been standing in my kitchen, listening to this conversation through the thin walls of our duplex, while simultaneously reviewing the Azure Coast Resort's monthly revenue reports. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years ago, when the resort had been facing bankruptcy during the pandemic, I'd purchased it through my investment company for $12.3 million. The previous owners had been desperate to sell, and I'd seen the potential in the beachfront property. What my family didn't know was that their minimum wage daughter had been running a successful consulting business for nearly a decade, generating enough income to quietly build a real estate portfolio worth $47 million. The family group chat had been buzzing all afternoon with vacation excitement. Mom had created a planning document with room assignments, activity schedules, and cost breakdowns. My name appeared nowhere on the list. Sarah, Mom had texted me privately, if you want to join us for vacation, you'll need to book your own room. We can't subsidize your participation anymore. I'd responded simply, understood. Have a wonderful time. What I hadn't mentioned was that I'd been the one subsidizing their successful lifestyles for years. Dad's construction business had been failing since 2019, surviving only because of the anonymous contracts I'd arranged through my network. Mom's boutique had been hemorrhaging money until mysterious bulk orders started appearing from shell companies I controlled. My brother Marcus's law practice had been struggling until high-paying corporate clients, all my contacts, began seeking his services. They thought their recent success was due to hard work and superior business acumen. In reality, they'd been living off my secret financial support while treating me like the family charity case. The Azure Coast Resort was my favorite acquisition. The 200-room beachfront property had been renovated to 5-star standards under my direction. Every detail had been carefully designed. The infinity pools, the spa, the private beach access, the 3 restaurants. I'd personally approved every hire from the general manager to the housekeeping staff. And now my family was planning to spend their vacation there, completely unaware that their poor daughter owned every square foot of the property they were booking. The next morning I was in my home office reviewing the resort's guest reservations when I saw it. Thompson Family Reservation, 8 guests for suites, presidential package. They'd booked the most expensive accommodation tier, totaling $18,000 for the week. The same family that claimed they couldn't afford an extra room for me had somehow found money for the premium package. I picked up my phone and called Marcus, the resort's general manager. Good morning, Marcus. I see we have a Thompson family reservation for next week. Yes, Ms. Williams. 8 guests, 4 suites in the presidential wing. They specifically requested our most exclusive services. I need you to call the primary contact, Rebecca Thompson, and inform her that the owner has requested their reservation be cancelled immediately. Of course, any particular reason I should provide. Simply state that the owner has requested their removal. Nothing more. I'll handle it personally. 20 minutes later my phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen. A selfie she'd taken at her boutique, back when she thought her business was thriving on its own merit. Sarah, she said breathlessly, you'll never believe what just happened. The Azure Coast Resort just called and canceled our entire reservation. They said the owner requested our removal. That's terrible, Mom. Did they give you a reason? No. The manager just said, owner's orders, and hung up. We've lost our entire deposit, $3,000, and it's too late to book anywhere else decent for next week. I maintain my calm tone. I'm sorry to hear that. Did you try asking them to reconsider? I called back 3 times. They won't even discuss it. The manager said the decision is final and non-negotiable. Her voice was rising with panic. Sarah, we need to find somewhere else to stay. Do you have any ideas? The irony was exquisite. The woman who'd declared me too poor for vacation was now asking for my help after being ejected from my own resort. Well, I said thoughtfully, I might know someone who could help. Let me make some calls. What I actually did was text Marcus. Please inform Mrs. Thompson that due to the owner's generosity, alternative accommodations have been arranged at the Seaside Inn for their stay. Rooms will be complimentary, but they'll need to cover their own meals and activities. The Seaside Inn was a modest 2-star property I'd purchased 6 months ago specifically for renovation. It was clean and safe but decidedly basic, the kind of place my family would normally never consider. An hour later, Mom called back ecstatic. Sarah, you're amazing. Somehow the resort manager found us alternative accommodations. It's not as fancy but it's free. How did you manage that? I know people in the hospitality industry, I said simply. The family group chat exploded with gratitude and speculation about my mysterious connections. Suddenly, the daughter they deemed too poor to include had somehow salvaged their vacation. But I wasn't finished. The next morning I called my assistant, Jennifer. I need you to arrange something for next week. I'll be staying at the Azure Coast Resort, Presidential Suite. I want full VIP treatment and I want it documented. Of course. Should I arrange for the photographer to capture your arrival? Yes. Make sure the resort's social media team posts everything. I want my family to see exactly who owns their dream vacation spot. Meanwhile, at the Seaside Inn, my family was discovering the reality of their free accommodations. The rooms were small, the amenities basic, and the breakfast continental. Mom had posted increasingly strained photos, trying to maintain the illusion of a luxurious vacation while clearly struggling with the downgrade. Having such a unique experience at this charming local property, she'd captioned a photo of her cramped room. The comments from relatives were telling, "Looks different from the photos you showed us," and "Are you sure this is the same place?" On Wednesday morning, Azure Coast Resort's Instagram account posted a series of photos. Welcome back to our valued owner, Miss Sarah Williams. Enjoying another perfect stay at Azure Coast's Presidential Suite. The photos showed me lounging by the private pool, dining at the exclusive owner's table, and being personally greeted by the entire management team. The caption included details about my ownership of the property and my recent expansion of the resort's amenities. My phone started ringing at 8:23 a.m. Sarah. Mom's voice was breathless, panicked. I just saw. Did you buy a resort? I own several properties, Mom. Azure Coast is one of them. You own the resort? The one that kicked us out? Yes. The one you said I was too poor to afford a room at. There was a long silence. I could hear Dad and my brother talking frantically in the background. But, how? Your job. You said you work in consulting. I do work in consulting. My firm has been quite successful. Successful enough to acquire a $47 million real estate portfolio over the past decade. 47 million? Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes. Including the resort you're not staying at, the hotel where Marcus works, and ironically, the construction contracts that saved Dad's business in 2020. Another silence. Then, you saved Dad's business? Along with your boutique and Marcus's law practice. Those mysterious new clients and bulk orders? Those came from companies I control. I could hear her explaining this to the others. The background conversation grew louder, more frantic. Sarah, we had no idea. That I was successful? Yes, I noticed. You assumed I was poor because I chose to live modestly and work quietly. You never asked about my actual career or income. But why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see how you'd treat me without knowing about my money. And I learned everything I needed to know. We never meant. Mom, you literally told your sisters I was too poor for family vacation. While planning to stay at my resort. Using money from businesses I've been subsidizing. The call went quiet except for muffled arguing in the background. What do you want from us? She finally asked. Nothing. You've made it clear that family love is conditional on financial status. So I'm removing the conditions. What does that mean? It means the anonymous contracts keeping Dad's business afloat end next month. The bulk orders supporting your boutique stop immediately. And Marcus's corporate clients will be informed that their retainer arrangements are terminated. You can't do that. Our businesses will fail? Probably. But according to you, they were already successful on their own merit. This shouldn't change anything. Sarah, please. I'm also pulling my investment from Uncle Robert's restaurant, Aunt Linda's real estate ventures, and the college fund I'd been building for my nephew. Since I'm apparently too poor to be part of this family. We made a mistake. No, Mom. You showed me exactly how much my family relationships are worth. And now you're seeing exactly how much your financial independence is worth. I hung up and immediately called my business manager. Patricia, I need you to execute the Thompson family withdrawal plan we discussed. All financial support terminates immediately. Send formal notices to all affected parties. Understood. Should I CC your family on the documentation? Yes. I want them to see exactly how much they've been receiving without knowing it. Within hours, the financial impacts began cascading through my family. Dad received termination notices for 3 major contracts worth $200,000 annually. Mom's boutique lost orders worth $50,000 per quarter. Marcus's law firm was informed that 5 corporate clients would not be renewing retainers totaling $75,000 annually. Uncle Robert learned that his restaurant's mysterious investor would be withdrawing support, meaning the end of the $5,000 monthly subsidies that had kept him afloat. Aunt Linda discovered that her real estate deals had been funded by loans from companies I controlled, loans that were now being called in. The family group chat went silent. Then one by one they started calling. Dad first. Sarah, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding about those contracts. Marcus second. Sis, my corporate clients are saying something about terminated retainers? Can we talk? Uncle Robert third. Sarah, sweetheart, my restaurant investor is pulling out. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Shock, denial, bargaining, and finally, desperate pleading. They'd all assumed their recent success was due to their own efforts. None of them had questioned the sudden influx of high-paying clients and mysterious opportunities. But the most telling call came from Aunt Linda at 11:47 p.m. Sarah, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. Of course. How long have you been supporting all of us? About 5 years actively. I started small, helping Dad get contracts, sending customers to Mom's boutique. As my business grew, I expanded the support. Why? Because you're my family. I thought family helped each other. And we never knew? I specifically structured everything to be anonymous. I wanted you to maintain your dignity and independence. But we treated you like I was poor. Like I was a failure. Like I didn't belong. There was a long pause. Sir, we were wrong. Completely wrong. Is there any way to fix this? I don't know, Aunt Linda. You spent years making me feel worthless because you thought I had no money. Now that you know I have money, suddenly I'm worth treating with respect. It wasn't about the money. It was entirely about the money. Every cruel comment, every exclusion, every dismissive remark was based on your assumption that I was financially unsuccessful. She started crying. We're going to lose everything. Maybe. Or maybe you'll discover what you're actually capable of when you're not relying on my secret support. The calls continued for 3 days. Each family member went through the same emotional progression. Anger at being deceived, bargaining for continued support, and finally, desperate apologies. But the most surprising call came from my nephew Tyler, Marcus's 16-year-old son. Aunt Sarah? I saw the Instagram post about you owning that resort. Yes. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. About how everyone treated you. I never said anything, but I always thought it was wrong. Thank you, Tyler. That means a lot. Are you really cutting off my college fund? I paused. Tyler had always been kind to me even when his parents weren't. Tyler, your college fund wasn't connected to your parents' businesses. That money was always specifically for you. Really? Really? In fact, there's enough there for a full ride to any school you choose, plus graduate school if you want. Even after everything? Tyler, you never treated me badly. Why would I punish you for your parents' behavior? Can I ask you something else? Sure. Were you really poor or were you just pretending? I was never poor, Tyler. I just chose to live below my means and let my family make their own assumptions. That's actually pretty smart. You got to see how everyone really felt about you. Exactly. And now I know exactly where I stand with everyone. 2 weeks later, the family dynamics had completely shifted. Mom had closed her boutique after losing the bulk orders that had been keeping it profitable. Dad's construction business was scrambling to replace the terminated contracts. Marcus was working twice as hard to find new clients. But the most interesting development was their sudden flood of attention toward me. Invitations to family dinners arrived daily. Calls just to check in became frequent. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years were suddenly interested in my life and career. The transformation was so obvious it was almost comical. During one family dinner, my first in months, the conversation was carefully, artificially focused on my achievements. Everyone wanted to hear about my business, my properties, my success story. The same relatives who'd spent years changing the subject when I tried to discuss my work were now hanging on every word. "We're so proud of you, Sarah," Mom announced to the table. "We always knew you'd be successful." I set down my fork. "Really? Because 3 weeks ago you told Aunt Linda I was too poor for family vacation." The table went silent. "That was a misunderstanding," Mom started. "No, it wasn't. It was an accurate representation of how you all viewed me. The only thing that's changed is your knowledge of my bank account." "Sarah," Dad interjected, "family is about more than money." "You're right, Dad. It is about more than money. It's about respect, support, and unconditional love. Things I provided for all of you and things you never provided for me." "We love you," Marcus began. Do you love what I can do for you financially?" No one answered. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "I'm willing to rebuild relationships with family members who can prove they value me as a person, not as a bank account. But the financial support is permanently ended." "What do you mean, prove it?" Aunt Linda asked. "I mean demonstrate through your actions that you respect me regardless of my income. Show me that your love isn't conditional on my ability to solve your financial problems." "How?" Mom asked quietly. "That's for you to figure out. But I'll give you a hint. It starts with genuine apologies for years of dismissive treatment, and it continues with consistent respect moving forward." 6 months later, the family dynamics had settled into a new pattern. Some relationships had been rebuilt on healthier foundations. Tyler and I remained close, and he'd started working part-time at one of my properties to learn business skills. A few cousins had reached out with genuine apologies and efforts to reconnect as people, not as financial opportunities. But others had revealed their true priorities. Mom and Dad maintained minimal contact, clearly frustrated by my refusal to resume financial support. Marcus had initially tried to rebuild our relationship, but his efforts had decreased as it became clear I wouldn't be referring business to his firm. The most telling development came 8 months after the resort incident. Azure Coast Resort had been featured in Travel Plus Leisure as one of the country's top destination properties. The article included a profile of me as a successful young entrepreneur who'd built a real estate empire while maintaining a deliberately low profile. Mom called within hours of the magazine hitting stands. "Sarah, I saw the article. We need to talk." "About what?" "About forgiveness. About family. About moving forward." "I'm listening." "We made mistakes. Big mistakes. But we're family and family forgives." "You're right that family forgives. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean returning to old patterns." "What do you want from us?" "I wanted you to love me when you thought I was poor. You didn't. I wanted you to include me when you thought I had nothing to offer. You didn't. I wanted you to treat me with basic respect regardless of my perceived status. You didn't. People change. Do they? Or do they just adjust their behavior based on changed circumstances?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, what if we started over? What if we tried to build something better?" "I'm open to that, Mom. But it has to be built on honesty. No more assumptions about my finances. No more conditional love based on what I can provide. No more treating family members differently based on their perceived success. Deal. And it has to be proven over time through actions, not just words." "I understand." Today, 2 years after the resort incident, my relationships with family members exist across a spectrum. Some have genuinely changed and rebuilt connections based on mutual respect. Others have proven that their interest in me remains primarily financial. But the most important change has been in me. I no longer feel the need to prove my worth through secret financial support. I no longer accept dismissive treatment in the name of family loyalty. And I no longer hide my success out of fear that it might change how people treat me. Because here's what I learned. People who love you conditionally will find conditions regardless of your circumstances. And people who respect you genuinely will do so whether you're rich or poor. The Azure Coast Resort still gets regular visits from family members who book standard rooms and pay their own way. They're always treated well by the staff, but they no longer receive special treatment based on their relationship to me. And sometimes when I'm sitting in my presidential suite, watching the sunset over the ocean I own, I think about that phone call when Mom asked why the owner had requested their removal. She still doesn't fully understand that the owner wasn't rejecting them because of who they were. The owner was simply treating them exactly how they'd treated her.